Chapter 17. Truth or Consequences. For a heart-stopping moment we hurtled through the air. Then we struck the floor with a crash. The box burst open and we tumbled out. "Run!" cried Madame Pong.
"Krieger! Krieger Bandolo!"
bellowed Gracker, pounding his chest.
"Bad wall broken! Mighty Gracker triumphs!"
Then he went racing across the room, screaming and yelling. At the same time, BKR came running into the room. As he came through the door, I realised that I was still carrying the backpack with the FD gizmo in it. Where was the Ferkel? I looked around frantically. There, on a table near the window. I started for it. BKR started for me. I was afraid he was going to grab me, but suddenly Gracker let out another blood-curdling scream and used his rocket belt to launch himself into the air. Landing on BKR's head, he grabbed two of the orange spikes and began jumping up and down as hard as he could, shouting, "Booga! Booga! Booga!" "Gracker, get off!" cried BKR, swatting at his head. Gracker only growled and sank his teeth into one of the orange spikes. BKR screamed in rage. I didn't stay to see what happened next. Manipulating the controls on my rocket belt, I flew to the table where the Ferkel sat waiting. Now all I had to do was figure out how to install the FD gizmo. I wondered if Phil's monitors could see what I was doing this close to the ship, if he would know when the FD gizmo was in place. Even as I wondered this, the plant's voice came through the microphone in my pierced ear. "Rudd, climb onto the top of the Ferkel, and you will see a device almost identical to the one you carry. This is the FD gizmo for the shrinking ray. Look at it. You should be able to figure out how the one for the enlarger should be mounted." Behind me, a ferociously angry BKR was chasing the little aliens. I started to ask Phil why I shouldn't just fly up to the top of the ship, then realised he was afraid I would attract BKR's attention if I did. So climb it was. Not the best choice for someone averaging C- on phys ed. "Got you!" I heard BKR shout as I began to search for a way up the Ferkel. Finding a foothold, I started to scramble up the side of the ship. Behind me I heard the lunchbox lid slam shut. "This time, stay in there!" shouted BKR. Who had he captured? No time to figure that out, Rod. Keep climbing. Reaching for another handhold, I missed, slipped down. Lying flat on my back, gasping for breath, I wished that for once in my life I didn't have to be such a clod. Pushing myself to my feet, I started to climb again. I fell at the same spot. I was about to use the flying belt and take my chances on BKR spotting me when I remembered a day long ago when my father had taken me rock climbing. Well, had tried to take me rock climbing. I had refused because I was afraid of hurting myself, but I had watched him very carefully from my spot on the ground. Now I remembered how he had groped for each handhold, making sure it was solid before he went further. I started again, working carefully. This time I made it. Scrambling over to the FD gizmo that was already in place, the one that worked with the shrinking ray, I pulled the one for the enlarger out of my backpack. I could see where it was supposed to go, and it only took a moment for me to see how I should insert it. But before I could do the job, BKR cried, "Stop right there, Rod!" I looked up. BKR was on the other side of the room. He was holding one hand behind his back. In the other hand he held a ray gun. It was pointing straight at me. This was no tiny ear-piercing size ray gun. In fact, given my own current size, it was more like a ray cannon. Despite the fact that I was currently a pretty tiny target, I figured odds were fair that A, BKR was a good shot, and or B, his gun had some sort of never-miss technology. Fear trickled through my veins. "What are you up to, Rod?" asked BKR. "Trying to get back inside the ship?" "No," I said honestly. He narrowed his eyes, looking straight at me. He asked suspiciously, "Rod, is there still a crew member in there?" My mouth went dry. It was cookie in the throat time. "Well," he coaxed, "come on, Rod. I know you never lie, So tell the truth. Is there someone inside the circle who can operate it? I tried to swallow, but I couldn't. My hands trembled. I thought of Phil. I thought of Gracker and the others. I thought of my mother, weeping in the night because my father had lied to her. I thought of Little Thing 1 and Little Thing 2 hanging in the air above the pit filled with fire. Looking at BKR, I said, "Of course there's no one inside it." I had done it. I had lied to him. Unfortunately, it did me no good. "I don't believe you," he cried, pulling his other hand from behind his back. He was holding Madame Pong. "Tell me who's in the ship, Rod," he said, his voice cold. He didn't need to tell me what he would do if I didn't tell him the truth. "Fill the plant," I said without hesitation. BKR's eyes widened for a moment, and I could see he had figured out how he had been fooled. "And what's that thing you have in your hand?" he asked. "The device that will allow the ship to enlarge again," I said quietly. "I think you'd better drop it, don't you?" he asked, extending the hand that held Madame Pong and making as if to squeeze her. "Don't, Rod," she cried. Put it in now." "Make one move and I squeeze," snarled BKR. "Hard." "Animal!" shrieked a tiny voice. It was Tar Gibbons. It came racing across the floor, its 4 legs moving so fast they nearly a blur. "Hee-yah! Frism Spezak!" cried the tiny master of martial arts as it hurtled itself against BKR's ankle. It was like a hamster attacking a St. Bernard. Yet to my astonishment, BKR tottered and fell forward with a crash. The ray gun flew out of his hand and skittered across the floor. I was about to slam the FD gizmo into place when BKR raised himself to his knees. "Rod," he cried, "stop right there. I know what happened to your father. Put that down and I'll tell you."